The defense is trying to get Bryan Kohberger's Amazon click activity evidence thrown out because it contains very damning information. It's significant because it shows that Kohberger purchased a kabar knife and the sheath prior to the homicides, suggesting premeditation. Also, he had subsequent searches for the knife and sheath after the murders, which implies a potential attempt to replace or conceal the evidence that was related to the crime. This pattern of behavior is critical in establishing a connection between Kohberger and the actions surrounding the homicides. Kohberger purchased the K-bar knife and sheath and a sharpener for the knife sometime between March 20th and March 30th, 2022. He bought them on Amazon. Dylan Mortensen observed an intruder with bushy eyebrows on November 13, 2022. She provided consistent descriptions of the intruder across multiple interviews. The state argues that her statements are reliable and relevant under Idaho rules of evidence. The Manson-Biggers test is deemed inapplicable as no suggestive identification procedures were used. State requests that the court allow Dylan to testify about her observations. She specifically remembered the male figure's eyebrows being bushy, and she noted that this was the most distinctive feature that she recalled, despite not remembering other facial characteristics like the eyes or nose. She described the intruder as being a few inches taller than her, approximately 6 feet, having a skinny athletic build, and wearing all black clothing, including a mask that covered his forehead and mouth. She also mentioned that he was holding something, and that the only discernible feature she could recall was his bushy eyebrows. Mortensen observed the intruder closely, being approximately 3 feet away, and she was able to determine details about the intruder's outfit and the item he was holding, despite limited visibility of his face. The state of Idaho responded to the defendant's motion regarding the make and model of the suspect vehicle. Surveillance footage from the crime scene shows a white sedan identified as a 2014 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. The vehicle was seen multiple times before and after the homicides. Expert Anthony Immel will testify about the vehicle's characteristics. The state argues the evidence is relevant and admissible under Idaho law. During a traffic stop on August 21st, 2022, Bryan Kohberger was driving a white 2015 Hyundai Elantra with Pennsylvania plates LFZ 8649. The vehicle identified from surveillance footage in the area of the crime scene was a white Hyundai Elantra, specifically a 2011 to 2016 model. The suspect vehicle was identified as a Hyundai Elantra based on similar class characteristics, including the overall body style, window configuration, front grille configuration, headlight shape, side trim, rear brake light configuration, rear license plate position, and rear bumper reflector position. At approximately 2:44 a.m. on November 13, 2022, WSU's surveillance cameras observed a vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 traveling south on Stadium Way. Bryan Kohberger's 8458 phone did not report to AT&T between the hours of 2:47 and 4:48 a.m. during the quadruple homicide. Investigators concluded that the 8458 phone's lack of activity between 2:47 and 4:48 a.m. on November 13, 2022, was consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide. The phone stopped reporting to the network, suggesting it may have been turned off or in an area without coverage. Kohberger's residence is located approximately 2.5 miles from the crime scene at the King Road residence. A vehicle matching the description of Vehicle 1 was seen traveling north on Johnson Avenue at approximately 5:25 a.m. on November 13th. Additionally, the 8458 phone connected to a cell tower that provides service to Moscow on November 14th, 2022, as well as using cellular resources providing coverage to the King Road residence from approximately 10:34 p.m. to 11:35 p.m. on August 21st, 2022. Kohberger's defense is trying to challenge the state's request to admit text messages as evidence. The defense is contesting the claims of excited utterance and present sense impression that the state has argued. The defense argues that a complete context of the communications is required, and it urges the denial of the state's motion based on the full timeline of events. After their text communications, Bethany and Dylan were together in the same bedroom and engaged in several phone calls and messages to friends and family. They did not leave the house or contact law enforcement for help, despite expressing confusion and fear. Instead, they continued to communicate with each other and others via social media and phone calls. During the incident, specific text messages exchanged between Bethany and Dylan included expressions of fear and confusion, such as Dylan stating, "I'm freaking out right now," and like he had something over his head and little mouth. Bethany responded with, "So am I," and urged her to run and told her to come to my room. Dylan also mentioned, "Bethany, I'm not kidding, I'm so freaked out." And Bethany commented on Xana's attire, saying Xana was wearing all black. The defense is arguing that excited utterance is invalid due to the timeline of all of these messages and the back and forth that occurred.